Hey everyone, it's Nelson from Creekwood.aquatics. This is Aquarist Assembled. Hey everyone, it's Nelson from Creekwood.aquatics. Whoops, shut that off. Yeah, this is the first live show. I'm gonna work out some bugs, trying to figure out how this whole thing works. But yeah, it's been a while since I've done one of these. I've been meaning to get back to it, but it's just been super busy between work, trying to live my life, and trying to maintain all the live cultures and get everything shipping. It's been a heck of a few weeks, but we're trying to get up back on track and just trying to have a more interactive experience with people. Hey, hello. All right, so let's get this show started. Again, I'm Nelson. I'm the owner of Creekwood.aquatics. We're a live food culture company based out of Floresville, Texas. We produce things like Daphnia magna, Mona, marine rotifers, both marine and freshwater phytoplanktons, and now we do copepods. So I'm gonna start off with something that happened to me this week. Let me open up this stuff. So I've been trying to restock a lot of my aquariums because I do want to film more content. And, you know, with this hobby, sometimes we go on and off. So sometimes our tanks are looking really good and sometimes they kind of start to look a little bit sparse. So I've been trying to build up a lot of my collection. And recently I went on a road trip and I stopped by a pet shop. And I saw a couple fish that I really liked. And one was a 6-line wrasse and the other was a black clownfish for my reef tank. The store was a really nice store. The fish looked good in the tanks that I was looking at. But when I got my 6-line wrasse and they handed me the bag, something just kind of seemed off. And I couldn't put my finger on it, but something was going on with his scales. But I was like, he's already bagged up. It was $30. Let's give it a shot. So I drove all the way home. The trip home was about 3 hours. We finally got home and I started acclimating the fish. And I put them in a separate bucket, started dripping them. And after my 30-minute timer, I always have my freshwater dip ready to go. And I took the fish out and I looked at him and he just kind of seemed lumpy. And I know that might be weird to say, but the fish just looked like there was something going on. So I decided to put him in a clear little beta bowl that I had, and I freshwater dipped him. And I actually have a video here I'm going to show you guys. Here we go. And I was like, that's not great. So so I quickly had to set up my little quarantine system because I was just going to put these fish straight in because I was like, I don't really have fish in these tanks, so let me just start stocking up. But once I saw this, I was like, this is not something I want to mess with. So I set up a 5-gallon bucket, put a H sponge filter in there, put a small heater, and I kept freshwater dipping this fish throughout the night. And the more and more I dipped them, the more and more these bugs came off. Actually, let's see this. I still have that clownfish to deal with. He's still acclimating at the time. And I think this was one of the final dips. dipping this guy for the night. So I set him up in his little quarantine tank. Now I'm looking at this clown. I'm just like, I got to treat you just like you're dirty, just like this guy, because you came from the same store, you came from the same enclosures, the same area. So there's possibly going to be stuff on him too. So I freshwater dipped him, and then I set them off to the side. And unfortunately, I thought things were looking good. It was about 2 or 3 days, and I kept seeing the wrasse swim around. I didn't feed him yet because I was like, let me just now I put Prozzy in the water and I put other stuff to see if I can kind of purge him and kind of clean him out because I didn't know what else he had. He had flukes, so who knew what else was going on in there. But he ended up passing this morning, and it was kind of a bummer, and I was really sad. But the clown looked good, so the clown actually made it into the reef tank. So now he's with his little partner over there, and they're swimming around. Eventually, I'm gonna post a video of the two together. It's really cute. But I think the roundabout story I'm trying to tell is the importance of quarantining your animals wherever you get them. No matter you get them from a big box store like Petco or the other one, PetSmart, or whether you go to your small local fish shops who have good reputations. I mean, things happen. These animals are cryptic. These parasites are cryptic. They don't want to be seen. So the same thing, like this wrasse looked perfectly fine, but these things didn't really start to expose themselves until I started the freshwater dips. So I think for most people, when you bring these animals home, you should try to have some type of quarantine procedure. So just set up a small bucket, set up a small 10-gallon tank, have a small filter, small heater. And I mean, for some people, some quarantines are just observation. You pop them in there for a couple of days. If nothing happens, you add them to your tank and life goes on. But throughout my careers, there's been different things that I started doing to my quarantine. So, my fish come in and they get an osmotic dip. And whether you're fresh or you're salt, the dip's going to be the same. So I'm going to run an osmotic dip around 1.010. So that's hyposalinity. When it comes to freshwater fish, I'll dip them in there for 30 seconds to a minute. I kind of irritates their skin. They build up a thick slime coat and they kind of slough that stuff off. And then I add the fish to their enclosure. When it comes to marine stuff, I put them in that water for about 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes tops. But I also do it depending on the fish too. So sometimes things like tangs and clowns and wrasses, they do not like fresh water, as you saw in that video. So I'll run that for 5 minutes, 8 minutes, and then depending on what I see, I'll either do it again or I'll add them to their enclosure. There's great little. I wish I would have brought it with me. My assistant Lorelai, can you the fish tank stand that's outside? Can you grab me one of those small bottles of Hertana, please?
If you tell them what you said happens to the fish after you die.
My wife wants me to tell the story. When the fish died today, I took her to the bathroom and I flushed it down the toilet. And my wife goes, "Did you just flush that fish down the toilet?" And I said, "Well, that's where you return all the daughters of Poseidon." um, but yeah, there's things that I do. So the Herb-Tana, it's an all natural plant emulsified plant extract. They're my dogs. I tell you guys, I'm doing this live, so there's going to be a lot of stuff. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on in the background. No, she didn't smack. My wife's a wonderful woman who tolerates my hobby to a very fair extent. Where was I? Oh yeah, the Herb-Tana. So it's an all natural emulsified plant extract. It irritates the fish's skin, just like the osmotic dip. They build a real thick slime coat and then they slough all that stuff up. You go and you siphon all that material out of your tank, so you're getting all those pathogens out of the aquarium. You do that for a couple days. Um, you can also do dewormers. Yeah, you can also do dewormers. There's a few that I like. I think there's stuff you could pick up at like a Tractor Supply store, but you can use fenbendazole or Panicure. It's a cow or horse or cattle dewormer. My dogs. Lori, can you kick Ava out? But yeah, we do dewormers, so we get them their medication, we mix it into their food, we feed it to them, and any um, pathogens, any parasites they have in their stomachs, they kind of push that out. I give it about a week or two, and then I feed them another dose, and then that pretty much clears them up. Back in the day, too, I used to use copper. And copper was good for ectoparasites. So if they ever had ick or flukes or anything on them, you did copper treatments. I left that in the water for about 2 weeks, and that pretty much burned everything off of these animals. But copper is also really rough, so I tend to only use it if it's an absolute emergency. And here's the herb tanner right here. I'm gonna scratch this label off because it has the store that I bought it from, and I don't kind of want to do that, but yeah, this stuff right here, herb tanner. This stuff is wonderful. They also make a antibacterial version of it called Artemis. I use that too occasionally. It's a good antibacterial and antifungal. Actually, this is it right here. My assistant, my wife, is so great. But yeah, this is the bacterial version of it. So these are things that I always keep on hand. I keep this on hand. I keep Prosi Pro, Copper Safe from who makes it? Fritz Aquatic. Oh, and then this guy. I can't pronounce it. I have my little cryptic writing over here. But this medication right here is actually a pig dewormer. And I use that for when I buy betas from big box stores and they have those red worms that are kind of hanging out of them. I put that stuff in there that knocks them all out. They all come out and they look gross. Yeah. Let's see. There's 3 people here. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about? Any questions that I can answer for them while I'm here? Just kind of make this thing a more interactive thing as opposed to me just talking about quarantine. Man, that's the story of my life. I mean, I work all day in an aquarium doing little water changes, and when I come home, I got more water changes to do here. So currently I have my I actually have a video right here of the newest planted system that I started up. My neighbor donated this aquarium to me, and it's I've been treating it very well. Let me load up this video. These swordtail males, and got these few swordtail males. The funny thing is, when I bought those swordtails, I bought a trio. I bought 2 females and 1 male, and I was really excited. And only one of the females kept giving me babies, and I was like, "What's going on with this other girl?" So I started really looking at her and started noticing that she had a little swordtail, and it was a male. And The people at the store made a mistake. But I recently bought while I was at that store too, I found two more female swordtails. So right now they're actually quarantining in a 2.5 gallon tank because I ran out of aquariums and buckets. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I know we can't see it right now, but I'm actually wearing my shirt for the San Antonio Area Aquarium Society. Hi, Alex. That is another topic that I wanted to bring up. Is local fish clubs. So when I was in New Jersey, I was part of a fish club over there for a little bit until I moved. But I was part of the NJAS, the North Jersey Aquarium Society, and it was the first time that I actually was part of an actual like fish community. Because when I started this hobby, I started working at pet shops. I started working at Rainforest Cafe, and I was running that small aquarium. And I kind of felt alone. I was doing this alone. Like I talked to my friends, I talked to my coworkers about this stuff, but um, I was just a guy who had a bunch of fish tanks. And one of my friends actually recommended to me that I go to one of these club auctions, one of these club meetings, and I went there, and it was an amazing experience. You met a lot of people, a lot of like-minded people, a lot of breeders. This is the first time I actually saw like competition fish. So they had all these like 2.5 gallons, and they had all their little apistogrammas and peacock cichlids and stuff like that. But it was the colors, the fins, the patterns, they were all like phenomenal. And yeah, I participated in the auction too. And I'm a small time aquarist, right? I probably have $20 in my pocket, and I went home with a Nimbochromis venustus, and I got a daffodil cichlid. And they pretty much gave me the daffodil cichlid. They're like, "Here you go, just take this thing." And I was super super excited, and so I live in San Antonio, and for forever, when every time I go on Facebook and stuff, I always see people always asking, like, why isn't there a fish club in San Antonio? Like, why do they have to go to Austin? Why do they have to drive to Houston or Dallas or whatever? And they recently came up with a fish club, and it just started. I think we're on like the third meeting, the third event, and yeah, it was really cool, but I went to the third meeting where it was like official, and they're talking about the future of the club, talking about board seats and different things that the club needs to do to raise money and all this cool stuff. And we were all introducing ourselves, and I met a lot of cool people there. I've met people that I've talked to on Facebook. One of the guys, Frank, he gave me a whole bunch of Alunicara, a bunch of peacock cichlids for free. He was just like, come over, pick them up, and got like 100 of them. And real funny. My wife's just shaking her head over here because I told her when I went to go pick up these fish, I was like, "Oh yeah, this guy's gonna give me a few fish," and she goes, "Oh okay." And I came up with 2 buckets, and she's like, "I thought you were gonna pick up like 2 or 3, not 100." But I said these are Nelson's fish. They're Nelson's fish. They're not Creekwood.aquatics. So, um, but yeah, we're talking about the fish club, and we're all introducing ourselves. I introduced myself. I introduced my company, and I made it a point to say, like, for years people were asking for this club, and now this club exists, and it's going to be our job, our responsibility to support these clubs. These clubs are great opportunities for keepers or aquarists to meet each other. They can learn different techniques. You can get rarer fish. You can get harder to find fish through people who like specially breed them, like Frank and all his. He right now he does a bunch of he had the peacocks. He's out of the peacocks, but he does frontosas. He does the black widows. He had some reds. He had a bunch of plecos over there. He had a bunch of Synodontis. He showed me his whole breeding, his Synodontis breeding stuff, and I was like, "This is like phenomenal! Like you're doing the stuff that I always dreamed of doing. Like it's crazy. Um, but not only that, but I met another man, Jose, who breeds a bunch of fancy guppies and plecos and shrimps. And then he's getting me in contact with some of his buddies to do breeding. So I mean, all this comes along because you join a club, you meet these people, and then your circle gets bigger and wider. And even with Creekwood Aquatics, like we're trying to bring in more live fish, more dry goods. But the thing is, instead of me having to contact transshippers and bring stuff from Indonesia, which I'll do no problem, um, but to have like a local source of fancy guppies, to have a local source of plecos and cichlids and stuff, and I can just drive down the street 30 minutes, an hour, pick them up, bring them home, and then I quarantine them for a little bit. It's just a better product. It's a fish that doesn't have to go through all the stress of being boxed up, shipped 3 days overseas, um, end up in Dallas, and then have to make its way down to me through FedEx or UPS. Yeah, it was just yeah, these fish clubs are really cool. I'm glad to be a part of this. I do want to run for a board seat for this club because I do want to help steer it. I know that it's going to be probably a huge responsibility as opposed to again my normal full time job, Creekwood Aquatics, and then being a husband and doggy dad. Actually, I don't have any doggies with me right now, but I love this hobby. Like this hobby is what you put into it. So yeah, it's a lot of stress. You know what? I'm rambling, but when I was me and my coworker were driving up to pick up some fish today, and I was like, this hobby, like there's a quote that comes to mind, and it's like it was the best of times and it was the worst of times. It's both those things. It's stress, but it's also relaxing. It's you know, but I love it. But I love this hobby.
It's meaningful. I'll tell your story.
My wife wants me to tell my story. Um,
The goldfish.
so we had to go pick up some fish today uh, from from a woman, and her husband passed away, and it was just these fish, and they were having a hard time caring for them. So they contacted us to kind of pick them up and transport them and bring them to a bigger pond. Uh, so when I got there, uh, I was talking to the caretakers, and they were telling me the history of the pond. Yeah, the pond was built 30 years ago. It was built out of concrete. The thing was sturdy though. The thing was nice. And I saw the fish, and they were also very nice. They were well taken care of. But the woman was upset because they've had these fish for over, they said the pond was about 30 years old. So they had these fish for a long time. And it was sad because she was saying, do you think he'll be upset that we're getting rid of his fish? And the caretaker was like, no, because they're going to a better home, and like, they'll be taken care of. And I walked up to the elderly woman and I said, well, where they're going, they're still going to be visible to the public. So, you know, whenever you get a chance, you could have your family bring you to this place and this park, and you can go and you can actually see the fish. And I said, if you give me a call, I said, I'll meet you there, and I'll bring you some goldfish pellets, and we'll feed the fish together. But you'll still be able to enjoy these fish. Your family will be able to come here for a while and see these fish, and so will the people of San Antonio. So I think that made her really happy. But it was very sad because again, you build attachments to these animals, and I didn't want her to think that we're just taking them away and they're just going to go live in a hole somewhere. They're going to be well taken care of where they are. They were super happy to be in their new enclosure, and yeah, yeah, it was very sweet. It was very sweet. Um, yeah, I'm sorry, but sometimes things like that happen in the hobby where you know you don't want to say goodbye to some of your fish, but sometimes it's better when you find a bigger enclosure or someone else who could provide more space and more happiness for them. Uh, there was pre-COVID. There was a person who contacted me and they were trying to find a home for their clown knife. And they said when they bought this thing from PetSmart, it was about 3 inches, and she put it in a 55-gallon tank. And by the end of the year, the thing was touching end to end. So she contacted me, and I helped her get in touch with a group, and they ended up taking this fish, and now it lives on exhibit. And it's this huge, giant knife fish that sucks down giant capelin all the time. Anyone else have any cool things they want to talk about? Oh, my wife's such a good assistant and a great wife. But she also mentioned to remind us that if anyone's in the San Antonio area, April 27th, there's going to be the San Antonio Reef Fest. Um, and I'm actually going to be there. I have a booth, Creekwood.aquatics, and when we go there, we're going to have our full line of live food. So the Daphnia, the rotifers, the phytoplankton, um, and the pods. As many pods as I can make, that's what I'm going to bring. They're very slow at reproducing, but but we got them. Uh, but it was really cool. Last year I did the Austin swap meet, the Houston trade show, and I think I squeezed one in at the very end of the year. So I did 3 events, and my Roomba's about to go off. My wife has to go. Stop them. I'm telling you guys, we're live. This is the first time I'm doing it actual live. So oh, so what do you want to know about the live food cultures? Because again, we have our Daphnia. They just live in some 40-gallon ponds in my backyard. I feed them green water. I feed them spirulina powder. Don't kick the tires too hard on this car. But yeah, I feed them spirulina powder. They get weekly water changes. They live outside. They need a 16-hour light cycle, so being outside is perfect. With that 16-hour light cycle, they can molt. Every time they molt, they give birth to live babies, and then those babies within a week are producing 6 babies of their own, and then those are producing 6 on their own. So I'm actually going to do, yeah, Roombas. This thing, it never turns on when I want it to turn on, but yeah, randomly, it's just like, let me clean your whole house. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna do a series on the Daphnia magna because there's a lot of people who they'll buy Daphnia from me and then they just don't have a lot of luck and the cultures tend to crash. And I want to show people that it's a little bit of work, but with the right techniques, with the right mindset, this can actually like be beneficial. Yes, they're on my website, creekwood.aquatics.com. Uh, Hold on one second. There we go, creekwood.aquatics.com. Um, but yeah, I want to do a small series where I'm gonna take the Daphnia, I'm gonna put them in a 1 gallon jar, I'm gonna put them by the window, I'm gonna feed them, and we're just gonna let them go. We're gonna see how that population grows throughout the week, and then we're gonna move them into a bigger container. We're gonna see what that population turns into a month, and then we'll see where it continues to grow. But these guys grow exponentially. When I first started, Daphnia culture. I ordered from Amazon. It was a website. It was $30, and I got like 50 Daphnia. It was ridiculous. But I put those in a 5-gallon bucket outside. I fed them, and then that population just kind of exploded. And I think after that, it crashed. It crashed, and I had about 6 Daphnia left, or like 20 Daphnia left. It was really bad what I had left. And I decided I put them in a small cup, filled it with phytoplankton. I left them in the windowsill, and I didn't touch them, didn't do anything. And that population, that cup exploded. And then I moved them outside, and I just started splitting my culture. So every time I Daphnia, every time I feel like I have a lot of surplus Daphnia, I'll take a big scoop with my net, and I'll start another tub, or I'll start another 5-gallon bucket. But the thing is, I'm always splitting these cultures. Actually, Lorelai, can you grab me my Daphnia culture that's on the cutting board over there? I was actually working on splitting another culture, and I got distracted, and I walked away. But yeah, I'll take little cultures like this. Those are all the Daphnia magma. It's hard to see on this camera, but yeah, I'll just set them in this container. I'll fill it up, feed them, put this on the windowsill, and I let them go. And when this whole container fills up, I'll move that into a 5-gallon bucket, and I'll keep growing. I'll keep splitting these cultures. Yeah, so it's super easy. My fish enjoy them. I noticed that the more Daphnia I feed to my young fry, the faster they grow, the more colorful they are, the stronger they are, the higher their survival rate is. Even there was an article I read about rotifers and how it's important that when some of these companies are aquaculturing clowns or royal grommas or stuff like that, like they start them off on the rotifers because it helps avoid spinal deformities. So yeah, I'm a big advocate for live foods. I started doing live foods last May, and I built a whole company around it. But yeah, there's nothing better. There's nothing better than live foods. And then you can always follow us at Creekwood.aquatics. We have our Facebook, we have our Instagram, we have the YouTube channel. I'm glad you're enjoying the live stream. I'm just like, I say, I started doing the pre-recorded stuff because it's like safer and yeah. But I like the interactiveness. I like the fact that it's more natural and it moves. You haven't had good luck with freshwater rotifers. Yeah, the rotifers that I produce here, they're called the L types. I don't know their scientific name. I can't pronounce it. But they're a brackish water rotifer. So they live in both fresh and salt. When I culture them here, I culture them at a low salinity. So I culture them around 1.015 to 1.018. I just do it kind of hypo, and they do absolutely fine and they take off. I just make sure that their water is always green. I could dump about a gallon of phytoplankton in the water, and it can turn like the deepest, darkest hunter green color. And within 4 days, the water's crystal clear, and there's just a bunch of food waste on the bottom. So when these things are going, their population gets crazy. But they're also beneficial too. So I feed that out to my reef tank, and I feed the phytoplankton out to my reef tank too. And that's the other thing too. Fish clubs. I started finding people on my groups that I wonder if I have the video here. I probably don't. But I started meeting people, and I started getting some really cheap corals too. So I got this beautiful sunburst bubble tip anemone. I got it for $30. Got it for $30, and I was like, "This is crazy." And then I got a green slimer acro. I think I paid $20 for it. Um, and what else? Oh, I got a hammer. I got a hammer coral. It's green. Um, but I think I got that for 20. So yeah, you meet real cool people. They have surplus animals, and you can get them real cheap. But you get that from, again, joining these clubs, meeting these people, and people just want to share their hobby. It's not about making money sometimes. Maybe it's about making those connections and helping other people out. So even the people I got my guppies from, Juan, one of the nicest guys in the world. Um, yeah, I go to his house to pick up fish, and we end up talking for like 2 hours about just things that are going on in our lives, his kids' birthday parties, just just stuff like that. And then I'm just like, oh, I came here to get fish, and I grab my fish and I go. But it's always a pleasure, always a trip to go out there. And actually, I have to go out there soon to pick up some more stuff. But yeah, you meet these people in fish clubs, you meet them in fish groups, and yeah, I'm trying to think what else. What else do we do here? So yeah, the Mona are the same thing. They're just smaller Daphnia, but they just live out. And for honestly, those guys can take a lot more abuse. So the Mona, I just set them off outside and I forget about. Honestly, I forget about them. I check on them like once a week, and their population. The less I do for the Mona, the better off they are. I just don't think they even need me sometimes. Yeah, when it comes to some of these things, so when I used to work at Absolutely Fish, I noticed that like some of the prices were a little bit higher than you would normally see at like normal shops or like PetSmart or Petco. But what I saw was for that little bit extra cost, the experience you got and the information you got and the products you got that you actually needed. So it's one of those things where, yeah, the store might be slightly more expensive, um, but you get a better quality product. You get the information that you need, and you get the products that you need. When it comes to getting stuff from local hobbyists, that's just things like when I'm looking for like a showpiece, or I just that these people take good care of their stuff, and again, they just want to share things with the community. So
Not sturdier too. Like all our walls have been
yeah, the stuff I got from the local hobbyists, they've acclimated sooner, they acclimated better, they start eating immediately.
they're less stressed.
Yeah, they're less stressed, but again, it's a give and take because we need the stores to kind of supply the hobby and kind of get that information, bring new people in here. But you also need the hobbyists to kind of build that community and kind of strengthen it, and then we kind of share it with each other, stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, yeah. Again, if you have a fish club in your area, um, there's no harm in joining. There's no harm in listening and meeting people. And again, it for me it elevated the hobby for me because again I was able to kind of learn from the people who've been doing this because a lot of the people you see at these aquarium societies, they're older. I mean, they've been doing this stuff for decades. I've been doing this stuff for about 20 plus years, but these guys, you know, yeah, and before this, I always thought that the stocks that they had at the store all came from wholesalers. They all came from transshippers. Um, but you start to find out after a while that a lot of the fish that you find in your local pet stores do come from the local aquarists in that community, and that's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing. Um, because like a lot of the fish I saw at Frank's place when I talked to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, I bring them to South Seas. I bring them here. I bring them there. And I was like, oh my God, it's like these are the same fish that I've been seeing for so long. And they look great. And I bought a few from those for my aquariums. And like I met the guy who makes them. I was like, do I have any comments on fruit flies? Uh, oh, we do those at my work. One of the guys I work with does them. Big pain in the butt. Big pain in the butt. Um, yeah, I don't have too much experience with them. All I know is that when I need them, I go there, I grab them, and they always smell terrible. Them and crickets and fruit flies just smell terrible. Maybe one day I'll branch off into that. Maybe one day if Creekwood Aquatics becomes a juggernaut, as opposed to cornering the aquarium live food market, maybe I'll get into like dubia roaches too. My wife's saying no. Creekwood Aquatics will never be a dubia roach or fruit fly company. I think that's where the line is. My wife just showed me where the line is. You see, I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying this. Yeah, it's a more organic experience. I don't think this is ever going to end up on the podcast because it's so sporadic. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. You know, I started this company again with an idea because I started going to the pet stores and I realized that they all have the same copepods from the big companies, and they have their you know phytoplankton blend of this and that. But I wasn't seeing things like Daphne. I wasn't seeing things like rotifers and a lot of the other stuff that I want to do. Like one of the guys I work with, partnered up with, he does vinegar eels. He gave me a culture of them, but I felt like this is something that I can bring to this small community in San Antonio, that we can bring Daphne here, we can bring the Mona, we can bring the rotifers, we can bring all that. We can expand, our live foods. Eventually, I'm going to do decapsulated brine shrimp, and with that decapsulation, you can either feed the eggs, the cyst, directly to your aquarium and let your fish eat it, or you can put it in an apalea hatchery and they'll hatch out within 24 hours. Black worms, yeah. ever since COVID, black worms have just like disappeared. And I tried to culture them a few times, and the cultures do great. And then one day they all just dissolve. So the way my company's been going is I bring in a new culture, I work with it, I get it up and going, and then probably like every 3 months, I'll try to bring something else new. Um, because when I started originally back in May, it was just Daphnia marine phytoplankton, and then I started the freshwater phytoplankton, and then I moved on to Mona once I mastered that. I started copepods, and I'm still not a master at copepods. Um, they're very sporadic in the way they want to reproduce. Um, but yeah, I think blackworms is something I'm going to take on probably in the month of May once the fish room is up and running. Which I know you guys are all new here. Converting one of my sheds to a fish room so I could start importing a lot more fish. Yeah. Um, yeah, the blackworms just it's rough. It's really rough. But yeah, I'm opening up this fish room. I'm gonna have at least I did the math. It was supposed to be like at least like 700 gallons of water in there. But right now I'm going to focus on some bread and butter stuff. So I'm going to focus a lot on fancy guppies, betas. What else? I was going to do some South American cichlids, some Africans, but I'm trying to do stuff that I know moves, and eventually I want to start bringing in more exotic stuff, stuff that's harder to find. But I first gotta do my proof of concept stuff that I know that can move, and I can start bringing in more stuff and then expanding. But no, blackworms, yeah. It's been sad. It's been so sad. I mean, honestly, there's probably a thriving blackworm colony in my South American tank over there, probably in the gravel bed that I haven't touched in a while. But who knows? The day I siphon out, I might strike oil. I might hit a whole pocket of blackworms in there. I'm trying to think what else. What else do I got going on here? Yeah, other than San Antonio Reef Fest, I'm still waiting for more events to pop up because my goal is last year I did 3 events and I told myself this year I want to expand. I want to do at least 5 events. And yeah, I've done this year, I've done 2 and I'm gonna do the third. And I know the Aquarium Nation event's gonna happen sometime in December in Houston. But I'm hoping that there's more shows, and I'm kind of hoping that as the company grows, that the company makes more money, I can actually go out further. Because there was another show in Louisiana that I wanted to go to, but um, being a hundred air, sometimes it's hard to make that happen. You know. Years ago, you had Oscar tanks. So yeah, the store I used to work at, they had some Oscars, and they would breed all the time, and you you knew they were breeding because they would get super nasty. You would just be walking down the aisle, and you'll hear just like boom, and you would look, and these things would be like attacking the glass. It was them and the Red Devils and the Jaguar cichlids were the worst. They were prolific breeders. They bred all the time, and you couldn't even go near those tanks when they had eggs. They were just it was just bad news. Come on. Oh, so yeah, there was a colony of blackworms in the Oscar. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Fish that happened too. It was in our discus system, and every time I gravel back, I pulled up thousands of blackworms. So it's like when I want them to reproduce, it's like my Roomba. It's like whatever I want it to do is going to do the exact opposite, or get hung up on a carpet somewhere. Oh, I got pebbles here. This is my guard dog. She's gonna be the protector of Creekwood.aquatics when the shed is open. So if you come to my house and you're trying to steal some fish, you're gonna have to deal with this. I don't know. She'll probably love people to death than attack them. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, this was fun. This was a lot of fun. I'm hoping to do more of these. I'm hoping to have more interaction, more engagement, more questions. Because sometimes I get lost. Sometimes I have a point that I want to make, and then I just kind of forget where I was going with it, just like right now. ADHD. Um, but yeah, that's every Aquarist I ever talked to. Yeah, we see squirrel and we just forget what we're talking about. Yeah, but I'm hoping to get this back on the schedule. So, Queries Assemble podcast, where I do my guest interviews. That's going to go back to the Thursday 7 o'clock time slot. The live stream, the actual live stream where we kind of do this thing. I might push it up a little bit later, maybe towards the weekend, just so it could be a more fun thing. I want to do like little games. I want to do little trivias. I want to do a lot of stuff with this. Um, Again, the reason why I started this, and this is something I was trying to say earlier, and I just like got sidetracked. But when I started this company, I wanted to hit it on all fronts. So I wanted to have my live food company, um, but I also wanted to have a presence on social media because I think that when you're trying to run, yeah, yeah, I'm kind of hoping to build a whole little community for this. Um, oh, where was I going with my ideas?
You want to go from all fronts.
Oh yeah, I wanted to go from all fronts. So like I got the business. I want to be on social media. I want to do educational posts. I want to do um, just. I want people to ask me questions about their stuff. Yeah, yeah. Six is woo. But yeah, I want to do more. I mean, the aquarium hobby has given me so much. It's given me a whole career. It's given me this side business, and I want to start putting back into it. Um, even for my local community, I'm trying to do workshops. So I'm gonna do a small post, and it's gonna be like if anybody, any age, you want to learn how to set up an aquarium, um, I'll do a small workshop for that. You want to learn aquarium husbandry? I'll have a workshop for that. You want to learn about nutrition? You want to learn about fish compatibility? You want to learn about where your fish come from, how they're collected in the wild? Uh, I have a little educational course. I'll have that. Um, I want to put back as much in this hobby as I've taken out, and that's also why I do a lot of the breeding that I used to do. I used to breed Bosmani, Madagascar, turquoise rainbows, angels. Um, I did discus, but I never got them to thrive. But live bears, betas, African cichlids, even the corals that I frag and I grow. I do it because I want to limit how much we do take from the wild so people can responsibly aquaculture these animals and make a healthier animal and get those out to the trade. I think that's a great way to go. There's some animals that I would never, well, I'm not going to say never, but in my experience, things like neon tetras, rummy nose tetras, black neons, um, those type of fish are better when they're wild caught. And anecdotally, the way I see it, I think that these fish they're exposed to more, so their immune systems are stronger. They eat more natural foods. So for me, a wild caught cardinal tetra is light years better than an aquacultured one. Every single aquaculture neon that I've ever ordered, I've seen their populations take tremendous hits. Eventually they stabilize, but the wilds they're just built different. They're built stronger. But that's something where like responsible fish collecting, like who is it? Project Paiba? Paya? I can't pronounce it. But those programs where the local community um, they collect the fish, they bring them, they get them to the transshippers, they get those to the wholesalers. But then the money that they make from the fish that they sell, they invest that back into the ecosystem, and you know they take care of the fish because the fish sales take care of them. I think those types of setups are fantastic. Um, but I know like things like the celestial pearl danio. One of the talks that we had at the aquarium society meeting, that when these things were first discovered they almost wiped out the entire population. Like they wiped them out from the one area that they were found, and they found them in a couple other ponds and a couple other streams. um, and at that point they realized that they have to be a little bit more selective and they got to be more responsible with their collection methods. And that's just the story of just everything. People find a new fish and they just go crazy, just pulling them out of the wild. And when there's no more left, too bad, too sad. Um, I'm actually working with two species of pupfish that are one's critically endangered and the other one's extinct in the wild. But I have Longidrosalis pupfish and I have the Veronicae. Um, they live in ponds on my property, and I just keep those going. So right now we're in the breeding season. The breeding season is going to be from March all the way up till November. Um, Once a week, I go out there, I collect their eggs, I count them, I put them in another bucket, I hatch them, and then when they're good, I put them back with their population over there. But that is a fish that's solely kept on this planet through breeders like me and the other people in the Killie group that I'm a part of. But that's an animal that they went extinct and wild because their ponds just dried up. They were spring fed, and eventually they pulled so much water out of that ecosystem that it couldn't sustain that pond anymore, and the pond dried up, and so did all the pupfish. Um, so luckily, when I got introduced to pupfish, I got them from a gentleman who was getting out of the hobby. He's been working with them since the early '90s, I believe, and he was just getting older. He just for medical reasons he just said he couldn't care for these animals anymore. So I got 30 of them, and I was able to reproduce them. And yeah, so right now they just live in my front yard. But that's an animal that I hope that I can produce more of, and then hopefully more people who join the Killie Club. I can give them a few, and they can keep this population growing because, you know, they say there's 20 people working with these fish, and say a few drop out, some people kind of give up, or you have a crash, and that's it. These fish are pretty much gone from the face of the planet forever. So I think it's important to have as many people as we can trying to keep these bloodlines pure and trying to keep them going and keep them on this planet so other people can enjoy them. I'll do a small video about those pupfish too, and I'll actually upload some videos. But they're really interesting. They're really cute, and I love my pupfish. All right. Other than that, I've had a great time. I love all the interaction over here. um, yeah, this was a fun experience. I'm hoping to do more. You guys were great. If you guys have any more questions, you can always leave them in the little comments, and I'll answer them on my next live stream. All right, everybody, take care.
Yeah, well, that's